today then we're going to make a rich triple chocolate torte with 3 different ganaches and a mirror glaze on top. There are some fiddly bits in this, so to make it simple we're going to do it in 3 stages, starting with the actual torte sponge itself. So I'll run you through the ingredients first of all. 6 whole eggs. I have 250 grams of dark cooking chocolate. Try and get a good quality one, at least 70% cocoa. I have 175 grams of ground almonds, 150 grams of dried breadcrumbs, 250 grams of unsalted butter, 350 grams of golden caster sugar, and half a teaspoon of vanilla essence. You'll notice that for our torte sponge we're not using any flour other than what's in our breadcrumbs. That's just going to give us a much denser, much richer cake. So the first thing we're going to do is create a little bain-marie. So I've just got a pan here onto some medium heat. That's just going to start boiling. Pop a bowl over the top, and that's just going to help us melt our chocolate nice and evenly and nice and gently. So while our chocolate is starting to melt, the next thing I want you to do is take another mixing bowl and just weigh it whilst it's empty. This will all become clear later and I'll show you why. So we have 1.48 kilograms, so I'm going to write that down, 1,480 grams. So into this mixing bowl that you've just weighed, I want you to chop up your butter into cubes, pop that in there and pour your sugar in as well. I'm just going to cream these together. So we're going to add our sugar to our butter, and then we're just going to use a fork and start creaming this together. Okay, so that's nicely creamed. Take our eggs, I'm going to use our fork again, mix those in one by one. Just beat them lightly with a fork until it's all nicely combined. Brilliant. Once everything's nicely combined, you're going to stir in your vanilla as well. Perfect. And just set this to a side just for a moment. Okay, at this stage we're just going to ensure we preheat our oven to 160 degrees. So now we're back to focusing on our chocolate, and as you can see it's lovely and melted. We're going to go in with our almond and stir that in, and we're also going to go in with our breadcrumbs. I'm just going to gently stir that in while it's still on the heat, get them all nicely combined, coated in this chocolate. So now I'm going to carefully take our chocolate mixture from the bain-marie and add it to our egg and sugar mixture. Just be careful when you're picking up your bowl that was in the bain-marie, because it could still be quite hot. So we're just going to slowly mix the 2 mixtures together. Okay, so now they're well combined and well mixed. Now we're going to weigh this again, and I'll show you why we weighed the bowl on its own earlier. Pop the bowl onto the scales, and the weight is 2980, so 2980, and using a bit of quick maths I can see that that is 1,500 grams. So we can see that our mixture weighs 1,500 grams. So we need to make 3 sponges out of this. So essentially what we're going to do is have 500 grams per sponge. You could just use your eyes or try and guess, but I want it to be accurate as I can, so I know that I need 3 portions out of this. 1,500 grams divided by 3, 500 grams a portion. So next, what you want is a cake tin with a removable bottom, preferably 3 of them. If not, you can just do it one at a time. And we're just going to draw around the base, cut out a bit of baking parchment, and this is going to go inside our cake tin. Align the bottom of your baking tray, and then quite simply take a 500 gram portion of our mixture and pop it into the bottom of this cake tin. When you have 500 grams in your cake tin, Make sure you get right to the edges. Now this is going to go into the oven for anywhere up to an hour. There's no rule for the time, just keep checking it after about half an hour. You don't want it to burn, but you don't want it to be undercooked. Use a skewer in the center to check that it's cooked, and we want 3 of these layers, okay? While we are cooking our 3 different sponges, or our 3 layers of Torte sponge, I'm going to run you through the ingredients for the 3 different ganaches that we're going to use. You don't have to use 3. Just for the cake that we're going to make today, we're going to use a dark chocolate ganache, a white chocolate ganache, and then we're going to cover the top and the sides with a milk chocolate ganache. So, the dark chocolate ganache, we have 125 grams of dark chocolate. We have 250 mils of double cream and 125 grams of icing sugar. For the white chocolate, the exact same quantities, so 125 grams of white chocolate, 250 milliliters of double cream and 125 grams of icing sugar. I've just doubled the quantities because we need twice as much of our milk chocolate ganache. So we have 250 grams of a decent quality milk chocolate, 500 milliliters of double cream and 250 grams of icing sugar. What I'll do is I will run you through how to make the milk chocolate ganache, and then you can just repeat the process for the other 2. So we're going to make the milk chocolate ganache. It's one of the easiest things to make a good ganache, so I'll just run you through how to do this quickly. So pop a nice large pan onto a medium heat, and then what you want to do is go straight in with your cream and gently in with your icing sugar. All we're going to do is stir this until all that icing sugar and that cream is nicely combined and it hits boiling point. Alright, so as you can see, it's just hit boiling point. So, I'm going to take a large bowl, pour your chocolate in there, and then quite simply, your cream and sugar mix, pour it over your chocolate, stir it and combine. And as it cools, you're left with fantastic, rich milk chocolate ganache. Do the exact same thing with your white chocolate and with your dark chocolate, and then you will have your 3 ganaches. Set them to a side to cool for later on when our sponges are ready. So at this stage then we should be left with 3 finished cooked sponge tortes. One's going to be the base, one's going to be the top, one's going to be the middle. So set these to a side for now. Now we're going to work on our mirror glaze. This bit can be quite tricky, and there's a few little tips for you. So to run you through the ingredients first of all for our chocolate mirror glaze, first of all I have 4 tablespoons of gelatine and 3 tablespoons of water. What we're going to do is we're going to bloom the gelatine by mixing these 2 together. That's just going to help us a bit later on when we come to pop our gelatine in our mirror glaze. I've got 475 mils of cold water over here as well, 300 grams of cocoa powder, 500 ml of double cream, and then last but not least I have 300 grams of white caster sugar over here. Okay, to kick off our mirror glaze, all we're going to do, take our gelatine, pop it into our water. I'm just going to give that a little mix up. It'll solidify, turn to a hard jelly very, very quickly. If we were to pour our gelatine straight into our mirror glaze, we would be left with a lot of little chunks and bits. So just by doing this, it helps us later on. So the next thing I'm going to do is take a large pan, leave the heat switched off for the time being. I'm going to go in there with our water and with our cocoa powder, and we're just going to mix them together. When you're left with what looks a bit like a chocolate paste, I'm going to turn the heat on, just onto a nice low heat, and we're going to slowly mix in this cream. Make sure you don't over mix. Try and avoid getting air bubbles into your mixture. So after you've added your cream and you're still mixing slowly, but it's become a lot easier to work with, just like this, then you're going to add your caster sugar and continue, stir that in. Okay, we are just about to hit boiling point. So what I'm going to do is immediately turn that heat off. Straight away, I'm going to go in there with our solidified block of gelatine. And I'm going to stir this in nice and slow. And all I'm going to do is continue to stir until this gelatine is dissolved into our chocolate mirror glaze. Remember, stir gently, try and avoid getting any air into your mixture. Don't worry about a few of these bubbles, I'll show you how we can deal with them later on. Okay, so I'm pretty sure that gelatine has dissolved nicely in there. Can't feel any lumps or anything like that. So what we need to do now is we need to cool this right down. It's far too hot at the moment. So you just want to leave it until it gets to 30 degrees Celsius, and then we can check it when we think we're about there with a temperature probe. To get this temperature down to 30 degrees can take anywhere up to 2 hours. So that gives us enough time to work on building up our torte with our chocolate ganaches. So a little tip for you. If you place some cling film onto your pan and just lower the inside so that it touches the surface of your mirror glaze, that'll stop any skin forming on your mirror glaze while it cools, and it'll also help to lift off those bubbles when we remove our cling film later on. So now we're going to start building up our layers of chocolate torte. So it's up to you, you choose which one goes on the bottom, the middle, the top. It's entirely up to you. It's also entirely up to you which order you put your ganaches on. Obviously we will leave our milk chocolate ganache for the top and the sides because there's much more of it. So first of all, I'm going to use this dark chocolate ganache on my bottom sponge. You can do this any way you like. Some people prefer piping their ganache on. I'm just going to use my spatula. You can also use a palette knife if you find that easier. Try and get it nice and evenly spread up to the edges. Okay, perfect. So that's as close to the edges as I can get with my dark chocolate ganache. Remember, it doesn't have to be neat because this is the bottom. So I'm going to take my next piece of my chocolate torte, pop it centrally. Next is the turn of the white chocolate ganache. Now it is important with this final layer that you get it as smooth as possible, because that will help the mirror glaze run properly. When you've covered all of your cake with your milk chocolate ganache, pop it in the fridge just to chill for a few minutes. Now we are approaching the 30-degree mark with our mirror glaze. What you need to do, pour it through a sieve into a bowl. This is just going to ensure we have the smoothest mirror glaze possible. So when your mirror glaze cools, pop it into something that's easier to pour, and you just got to be brave. It needs to be at 30 degrees. Your torte and your ganache needs to be cooled, but in one fluid motion, or as fluid as you can. Pop your mirror glaze over the top, pour around the edges, it'll smooth itself out. And then one last time back into the fridge to cool, and then when it's cooled you'll have a fantastic, lovely, shiny mirror glaze like this one.